So this is what we are going to study. Even though we say our subject is about environment, so that's what the subject is, right? Actually, it is not environment. Precisely, if we want to say, it is to be called as ecology, because everything what we are going to discuss is actually about ecology. Okay. So what this ecology means, I think in our first class last week we had a small discussion on that, right? Can you remember any of that? ஏதாவது ஞாபகம் இருக்குங்களா? What that ecology means? Study of? Exactly. Thanks for that. So study of living organisms and how they interact with each other and also with its surroundings. You're sitting in this room. You think that you are independent and isolated. You are not. You are not independent. You are not isolated. You are interacting passively, not actively. You are interacting with your friends. You are interacting with the rest of the persons. In addition, you also take in air, the atmosphere, the conditions around you. It all affects you, right? So every time, this is not only true for you, every living organism always interacts with each other and also with non-living objects, non-living factors, air, water, temperature, minerals, this, that. Everything together constitutes ecology. So ecology in a way means, it means the interactions between organisms plus its surrounding factors. This is what simply the word ecology means. But in this understanding of ecology, how living organisms interact with itself, we have many topics covering that. How living organisms interact with its surroundings. For example, let's take climate change. It is our bad interaction with our atmosphere that resulted in climate change, correct? You take any pollution, you take climate change, you take ozone pollution, ozone depletion. All this constitutes how we interacted with the surrounding. So as I said earlier, literally everything what we are going to discuss will come under this definition of ecology. It is under this, the entire subject will fall under. So when we study this ecology, there is certain hierarchy that we should first appreciate. Hierarchy in an ecology. Every subject has its own way of building that hierarchy. Every subject. So in ecology also, there is one schema. A simple schema of how one leads to the study of another, how that leads to the study of another, that moves up. So that hierarchy of ecology. You take any biology subject. Okay? How do we start a biology? First, we will study about what are fat, what are sugar. We will study about first biomolecules. And what we study next, we study about cells. And then what we do, from the cells we go to tissues. And then what? Organs. Like what we go, right? We go from smallest to the biggest. So that's how we design the hierarchy of a subject, correct? We go from the smallest to the biggest. Likewise, in ecology also, there is something from the smallest to the biggest that we cover the subject. So we'll go from that order. From the lowest hierarchy to the highest hierarchy, we'll go in that order. So remember, the order is from lowest to the highest. So in that, what could be the lowest? It cannot be biomolecules, because if you study biomolecules, you are studying biology. This is not biology. Okay? You cannot talk the whole earth. Why I'm talking about whole earth now? Because anything we call as a life as of now exists only in earth. You may talk many conspiracy theories about aliens, possibility of looking for life in Mars. You're looking also for life in Enceladus. Enceladus is a name of a satellite of Saturn. Enceladus is a satellite of Saturn where liquid water exists. We always believe that liquid water is source of life, correct? So now what we do, we always look for water. If water is there, the possibility of life is also there. But we don't know whether life exists there or not. Probably later we'll touch upon this topic slightly. How do we know life? How it can exist, we'll touch upon later when the opportunity comes. But now, Earth is the only place where organisms live and how they interact with each other. So, Earth is the final ultimatum, the highest level. The lowest, it's not biomolecules, I told you. Then how can we start? We have to start with this organism itself, right? That is the basic unit we have to start with, correct? Because we are studying how this interacts with the others. So this has to be the fundamental starting unit. So the starting unit, okay, for ecology is species. That's the first level. Species. What do you think about species? Species na what? What that word species means? Okay, it doesn't need to be technical, guys. Just open out. Species na enna nenikiringa? What do you think the word species stands for? Yeah, a living organism. Okay, a group of similar individuals. Now that adds a little more. Okay, a living organisms is correct, but it is not very specific. A group of similar organisms. Okay, for example, let's say you go to a forest, you see an elephant, you see a lion. You say lion is a species. You say elephant is a species. Now, will you say they belong to the same species? Elephant, you say it's a different species. Lion is a different species. You understand? So, living organisms mattum kadiyadu. It is beyond that. The word species means. Sir, why are you telling this? Abdin Kaitingna, UPSC before 5 years asked a question on simply what the species means. There was a previous year question. So do not underestimate on these definitions because questions may be raised from that. Okay. So species na enna. What the word species means. Okay, please come. So species na enna abdina. Now understand that example I told you. Elephant, lion. You say elephant is a species, you say lion is a species, but they do not belong to the same species. Likewise, you say human species. Even though we say humans evolved from orangutans, that is our closest ancestor. நம்மளோட பழங்கால மூதாதையர் யாருன்னா orangutan குரங்கு தான். That seems to be genetically more closer to humans, orangutan. So, but even though humans originated from orangutan, now we will say orangutan is a different species, human is a different species. Yes? Now, with this example, let's approach what the word species means. Species means a group of organisms that can mate with each other and produce a fertile offspring. Species na enna na it means organisms that mate with each other and produce a fertile offspring. Organisms that mate with each other, okay, but that's not the end of the story. It produces a fertile offspring. You heard about mule? Yes, it's a cross between donkey and horse. Okay, exactly. Yes, you're bringing it exactly. You know telepathy. I was about to say about liger and you are bringing it up. Okay, I have to be careful with you. Liger, another example. Just look at the word liger. See, I want to tell you one thing, guys. Always pay attention to the name given to a concept. Always pay attention because that says a lot of story in that. Maybe what I'm going to tell now to emphasize that it's in Tamil because that is better there. Okay, for non-Tamilian, I'll try to explain that. You know, in Tamil there is a word called a sagodaran. Sagodaran is a word used in Tamil reference to what? Brother. But what's the meaning sagodaran? How would it refers to brother? But actually, if you know the real meaning of the word. Sagodaran actually means Saga Udaran. It's a two words. Saga Udaran joined together form Sagodaran. Saga means co, shared. Udaram means the uterus. So it's actually the one who shared the uterus is what called a Saga Udaran, which we call it a Sagodaran. You know the meaning of that word, you understand what the word stands for. I'm telling this for every subject. When a particular terminology, a particular phrase is used, I'm telling you that has a lot of meaning. You pay attention to that, you understand the whole concept behind it. Okay? You pay attention to that, you understand the whole concept behind it. நீங்க அந்த ஒரு வார்த்தையை புரிஞ்சிட்டீங்கனாலே you can bring lot of interpretations and dimensions into that. So here also liger, it's actually a cross between tiger and lion. Okay, we know tiger is a different species, lion is a different species. Yes or no? But when they cross, they produce an offspring which is very unnatural. Liger is formed, it grows, but it has the characteristics of both. You know, it looks so huge with the hairy features of a lion, but stripes of a tiger. It has the stripes of a tiger, but hairy features. You know, lion பார்த்தீங்கன்னா மொட்டை மாதிரி இருக்கும், வழுக்க வந்த மொட்டை மாதிரி இருக்கும். They have no facial hairs, but lion is just gigantic. But this liger will have both the features. But you know what's the tragedy? It cannot reproduce. You know, liger cannot reproduce. The same true with the mule also. It's a cross between horse and the donkey. Okay, it's called as workman. It has the carrying ability of a donkey and the agility of a horse. We always try to do this unnatural cross. Even in plants, we do that. You know that the whole agriculture is based on this hybrid. You take one character, we take another character, we mix them, we want to get a new thing. But remember, this unnatural cross will produce a offspring, but that offspring cannot reproduce. Which means, reproduce means, we call it as infertile. Infertile means it cannot reproduce. Now, what is the definition I told you for species? Organisms that mate with each other and can produce fertile offspring. Only when two organisms, when they mate and they reproduce a fertile offspring, then we can say the two organisms, no, that mated, they belong to the same species. If they don't produce a fertile offspring, it means they belong to a different species. You get the idea what species means? This is what the word species stands for. This is the basic starting point of studying ecology, species. Then, species. One species, but in ecology, it's not like only one animal. Not like a movie, The Last Man on Earth. Will Smith survives alone. Not like that. We are all living with our friends and kin, right? So one species interacts with their members first. They interact with other members also, right? They form associations like that. So when one species and the other members of the same species interact, what we call it as population, isn't it? See, let's say human, individual human. But when there are so many humans in the region, what we call it as population of Tamil Nadu, population of Chennai, Indian population. Which means when we say Indian population, do you include the number of cattle also? Do you include the number of elephants and tigers? No. The word Indian population refers only to humans. Appo, humans, they belong to the same species. So when the same species come together, they form some numbers. That we call by the word population. So that's the next level. Individually, it is called a species. When the species come together, it is called as population. So population means same species. I'm sorry. Population means total number of same species. Total number of same species in a given region. Now, this is what population stands for. Total number of the same species in a given region. Okay. In nature, there are many population that coexist, right? We have human population. In our roads, we also have a stray dog population. You know about recently Hyderabad stray dog biting incident, right? There are also stray dogs population. There are housefly population. So the species, when they come together, it's called as population. But many times these population, many population exist, correct? Now what that we call as? We call by the word community. The next level is community. So first we have species. The next higher level is population. Population means when many species come together. Now what is community means when many population come together. Humans, elephants, other animals, other plants, everything, when they come together, we call as community. You understand why we say the community leadership, the community participation we use in polity, we use in governance. What that word means? Because the word community stands for many different groups. When they come together, we use the word community. Community is not homogeneous, guys. Community is heterogeneous. Community is heterogeneous. It's made up of many different members. Many different. Whenever there is that heterogeneity, we use the word community. So, when you read a statement, some statements you can read faster. I'm talking about other subjects. But there are some statements you need to stop, just try to see what the statement says. Understand its depth. That will open up your thinking. Community, if you understand what the word community means, next time when you read community partnership, community leadership, you'll understand better. Only by understanding what the word community stands for, isn't it? So community means it's made up of many members. The members who are not same, the members who are different, that's called as community. So community in a simple way called as different populations. So far we were seeing one side of the coin, species living. When the species come together, population living. Many different population come together, it's called as community. That's also living. Everything is a living member. But what we call as a life is not only living but also non-living. In ecology, we study about living organisms and interactions, correct? Upon non-living, we have to start studying, correct? Now that is where the next level comes. Ecosystem. Ecosystem, please. So this is the next level, ecosystem. Now, what ecosystem means? Ecosystem literally means the word ecosystem literally has the same interpretation like ecology. Because in ecosystem, what happens? These living organisms interact with non-living factors, I told you. So it seems very similar to the definition of ecology. So what is the next level is ecosystem? It means interactions between living and non-living factors. So this interaction between living and the non-living is called as ecosystem. Now in ecology, where we deal with the living and the non-living, this is the first point of beginning, correct? Because before this we study only about living. The non-living comes only here. You understand what I'm saying? That's why ecosystem is called as the fundamental unit of ecology. The fundamental unit of ecology is ecosystem. Why? Because it is an ecosystem, the living and the non-living interacts. So that's why ecosystem is called as the fundamental unit of ecology. Now ecosystem. An example of ecosystem, there are many. But broadly, we divide them into two types and then many types. Broadly, we divide them into two types. Terrestrial ecosystem, land-based, aquatic ecosystem, water-based. But ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ நிறைய types. Land-based ecosystem, many types. Water-based ecosystem, many types. When you take a trekking along Western Ghats or Himalayas, you come across first a lake, maybe an aquatic ecosystem. And next to over to the lake, you may see grasslands, another ecosystem. You just walk past, you see kind of thorny bushes, another dry scrub ecosystem. You move deeper, you see dense forest, tropical rainforest ecosystem. But together, when you say Western Ghats, it's a region. That one region contains many different ecosystem, correct? So that's what our next level. So ecosystem is when living and the non-living interacts. But when the many ecosystem come together, that's next a higher level, correct? Like Western Ghats. That's called as biome. Biome. The next higher level is biome. Now, what the word biome stands for? Biome means what? In a more easier way, more fundamental way, biome means many ecosystems. See, many species come together, population. Many population come together, community. Community interact with the non-living is called as ecosystem. So, when many ecosystem in the same hierarchy, when many ecosystem come together, it's called as biome. So, biome in a literal way, it means an aggregation of different ecosystems. An aggregation of different ecosystems to understand it easily. But to say it more precisely, what the word biome stands for. What the word biome stands for, to understand it more precisely, this is what it stands for. Biome means it is a biome. Biome means a large biogeographical region. Biogeographical region with unique flora and fauna. With unique flora and fauna. Unique, that's important. The word unique is important. With unique flora and fauna, along with characteristic climate. அப்போ ஒரு பயோம் சொல்லிட்டோம்னா, it has a unique flora, it has a unique fauna, it has a unique climate. What we see in one biome may not be the same in another biome. One biome may contain many different ecosystems, but that biome will be totally different from another biome. The 5 major types of biomes. You will study about this more detail in geography session, but we won't go into the geographical aspects of biome. But the 5 major biomes are forest, desert, aquatic, tundra, and grasslands. Tundra and grasslands. Tundra refers to what? Polar biomes. Forest, aquatic, desert, grassland, and tundra. These are the 5 major biomes. These 5 major biomes, are they similar? You know the word difference between similar and same? How do you appreciate the difference between the similar and the same? Same means it's exact, 100%, it's as like as that. Similar means it's in percentage. It is 60% similar to that. It's 40% similar to that. It is vaguely similar to that. So in degrees of comparison, when we say it is similar, when it is exactly a replica, like a clone, it's exact replica, we use the word same. So biomes may look similar, but they are not similar, they are different. There are different biomes in our earth. The 5 major biomes I have told you. The next question is, why there are difference in biomes? Why tundra is like a tundra? Why forest is like a forest? Or other ecosystems, why they are like as it is? They're like as it is because of there has to be something which changes them, right? What you think that makes them biomes as different? Environment. But what do you say by the word environment? Can you qualify that? Climate. Water availability. Okay, that's precisely one of the factor, correct? Nature. Okay, I told you, please guys be careful with her. She knows telepathy. Exactly, yes. There could be many differences. When you walk into a forest, see, what you feel. You walk into a desert, what you feel. First one, temperature, right? Second, availability of water. இது ரெண்டு தான். This primarily these two differentiate that so many different types of biomes. So biomes, why they are different? Okay, wait. I haven't completed. Wait. I haven't completed. Okay, there is a difference in terms of temperature with one biome and the other. There is a difference in water availability from one biome to the other. But this is not enough. There is something else also. Flora and the fauna. See, you take any ecosystem, let it be dense forest or it is a barren desert. When we say that, the difference, we are obviously know desert has a less biodiversity compared to forest, we know that. But you know what's the reason actually? Let me tell you one thing. Do not worry about fauna. Fauna, I'm talking about animals. Don't worry about animals at all, guys. You maintain the flora, fauna will be naturally attracted there like a magnet. It will be attracted like a magnet. Majuli Island in Odisha, you know, something, and largest inland artificial island created by one person. I don't remember that name. Because you say that, that suddenly sparked. Yes? Chado. Okay, I'll refer it. Okay, I don't immediately recollect it. No, that was actually one of the flood island created by the flow of Brahmaputra. Okay, and what he has done is he individually took the task upon himself to plant the trees in this river island. It's called as river island. And now he did nothing. He didn't put the cards. Animals are most welcome here. No rent, no fee. He didn't do like that. He simply planted trees and trees and trees and ensured that nobody encroached and cut it. You know what happened? Now it is a home to elephants, tigers, and so many different diversity. We don't have to invite animals. Plant the trees, animals will naturally come. That's true anywhere. Because the scientific reason is because plants is the base of any ecosystem. Only plants support next level of animals. That animals support the next level of animals, and the chain goes on. If there are no plants, there is nothing to be supported for the next level. That's the reason why desert don't have many plants, and that's why we don't have many animals also. You understand? So the degree of biodiversity of a region depends on what? Plant diversity. It's a plant diversity that determines the biodiversity richness of the region. You would have heard about class. I just want to give a reference. You would have heard about the word biodiversity hotspot. You heard about the word biodiversity hotspot. We'll discuss about the concepts later. We'll discuss that. If you want to call a region as a hotspot, biodiversity hotspot, they've given some conditions. Okay, only when this condition is fulfilled, you have to call it as hotspot. You know, one of the conditions, plant diversity. Biodiversity hotspot சொல்றதுக்கு criteria என்ன வைக்கறாங்கன்னா plant diversity தான் வைக்கறாங்க. They keep plant diversity as a criteria for the animal total biodiversity. You know what you understand from that? Plant is a fundamental that supports every other living organism. So in any ecosystem, when we talk about one biome is different, other biome is different, unique to flora, unique to fauna, ultimately we are talking about what is needed for the plants to grow there. No, don't change. Come to telepathy. Don't change the frequency. Two things, temperature and water. That's the two things we told you, right? Temperature and water. But remember, this temperature and water is ultimately what needed for the plants to grow. Correct? Temperature and water. That is well provided in good amount, plant will grow faster. Now, this temperature of water is also not uniform throughout the year. Isn't it? It's seasonal, correct? Seasonal variation also comes. Now, that completes the totality of the explanation why biomes are different. Temperature and water is only one part. The other is seasonal variation. So, why the biomes are different? Now you can take down. Why biomes are different? Two reasons. Why biomes are different? Two reasons. The first reason, seasonal variation in the temperature, seasonal variation in temperature and precipitation. Now I'm using the word precipitation. I didn't use the word water. Precisely, I'm using the word precipitation. Seasonal variation in the temperature and the seasonal variation in precipitation. Seasonal variation in temperature and precipitation. That's what the meaning stands for. Now, please add a more point that precipitation includes both rainfall and snow. It's not only rainfall. The word precipitation also stands for snow. Both rain and the snow constitutes precipitation, and that too, seasonal variation in temperature and the rainfall is the difference why there are many biomes. This can be a question. This very thing what we discussed right now, right? Because there are so many different biomes. The fundamental reason why is because of the variation, seasonal variation in temperature and precipitation in every region. That differs. Because that differs, the growth of plants differs. Because of the growth of plant differs, the kind of biodiversity it supports is also differs. When the biodiversity in everything differs, the whole ecosystem differs. That's why biome also differs. You see, that's how it builds up. Biome. Now, in our Earth, there are so many biomes. I told you 5 major biomes. But all the biomes taken together, it forms Earth. The only living planet, the blue planets that supports life as of now. So that constitutes biosphere. When many biomes come together, the last and the highest level is called as biosphere. This is the highest level. Now, when we say the word biosphere, bio means living, sphere means space. Bio means living, sphere means space. Biosphere, the space for life. So, biosphere, what are the components when we say? What are the components of the biosphere? Where the life is there in the earth, that is biosphere. Where in our earth the life exists? It exists in land, it exists in water, it exists in air, it exists in other places also. I'll tell you that. So, biosphere constitutes atmosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, air. Hydrosphere, water. Biosphere na enna? Wherever the living organisms are found, it is biosphere. But that includes what? It includes atmosphere, it includes hydrosphere, it includes lithosphere. Lithosphere means soil. It also includes another one, cryosphere. Cryo. Cryosphere. Cryosphere. Anything ringing? Cryosphere na ennava irukum? Frozen. Something. Cryo is a clue, right? So cryo something means very cold. Okay, but there is some other word we use for cold, right? Freezing, sub-freezing temperature. See, if something is so cold, what is the technical word we use? Sub-freezing or freezing. We also word cryo. But how can you use two different for the same concept? It means they are not same. They are not same. Cryo ni eppo use பண்ணனும் தெரியுமா? You have, that's a particular instance where you have to use the word cryo. Sub-freezing என்ன தெரியுமா? Any temperature between 0 to -20. You will use the word sub-freezing. Sub-freezing means the temperature when it is between 0 to -20, we use the word sub-freezing temperature. When we go to Russia or Canada, it is sub-freezing. When you go to Antarctica, it is even lesser than this. Appo you will not use the word sub-freezing. Then you will use the word cryo. Cryo simply means any technology that deals with lesser than -20 is called as cryo technology. So cryo simply enna less than -20. Any temperature less than -20 is reference to cryosphere. Cryo is a reference to cryo. 0 to -20 it is sub-freezing. Less than -20 it is cryo. You heard about India's GSLV program, correct? GSLV program. What is the abbreviation for GSLV? Geosynchronous Launch Vehicle. What is one speciality about GSLV? Yeah. It has a special engine called as cryogenic. Notes edukaring. Just listen what I'm. Okay. Because I would like to connect that. GSLV. Many launch vehicles we use, guys, to put satellite high above in the atmosphere. It's so heavy, we have to carry them, right? To carry them, we use launch vehicles. Like a bus. Bus carries a passenger, drops in different destinations, correct? Likewise, the rocket also carries, drops in different height. That launch vehicle, India had developed many. One of the most sophisticated as of now is GSLV, Geosynchronous Launch Vehicle. We'll discuss about GSLV and all later in our classes. But when we say the word geosynchronous, it is special because it has one unique engine called as cryogenic engine. Now you understand what the word cryogenic engine should stands for. Anything we use in the cryogenic engine, it should maintain a temperature less than -20. In fact, they use liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen there. Liquid oxygen, -185 degrees Celsius, -185. Liquid hydrogen, -251 degrees Celsius. So less. -251 degrees Celsius. That's why we use the word cryogenic engine. So cryo, anything means -20. Anything less than -20 is called as cryosphere. Okay. So cryosphere is also part of the biome because it's a cryosphere. Who can live, sir? In fact, there also life is known to exist. There also life is known to exist. Particularly bacteria is known for that. Okay, a class of bacteria called as archaebacteria. A particular class of bacteria called as archaebacteria is known to live even in cold climates, coldest climates. So wherever life exists, that is biosphere. Biosphere, as we know, it includes atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, but it also includes cryosphere, the coldest part of our Earth. So this is a hierarchy of ecology. From the simplest, the beginning, to the largest, Earth itself, biosphere, the different hierarchy. Now in this different hierarchy, let's now move on to our next topic of discussion. Our next topic of discussion, we will take up to understand something called as habitat, niche. We'll understand habitat and niche. Okay, what they are. Recently, Indian government have undertaken an ambitious program called as cheetah reintroduction project. How many of you heard about that? Cheetah reintroduction project, right? Can you say something, share about some points into that? Can you shed some light into that cheetah reintroduction project? What we did there? African cheetah is to be introduced into India. Okay, why? Louder, speak louder. Okay. Okay. So shall I ask one question? Um, uh, India had a cheetah population, but not anymore. 1954 was the last time cheetah was known, and that was a time when last cheetah of our country was shot down. Hunting. Okay. Now we are trying to bring the cheetah population back into our Indian forests. So the next question is, are they same species or different? You say genetically closer, correct? Now I would like to ask a question, are they same species or different? Okay. See, this is not my mistake. You prompted that. No, 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 nothing wrong, nothing wrong. We are slightly diverging, okay? Because let me clarify that. Homo sapiens is the biological name for humans. Okay? This is species, this is genus. Already we see in ecology species as the fundamental beginning point. So, if this changes, automatically this also changes, correct? So, not right. Guys, you got what I said here? புரிஞ்சுதுங்களா? See, Homo sapiens பார்த்தோம் இல்லைங்களா? As I told earlier, from the basic we go to the next level and to the next level. In the Mari, every subject has its own levels. This is a leveling taxonomy. Taxonomy is how we classify living organisms. Okay? So the fundamental level is sapiens is a reference to species. Homo. Homo means it's a group of species that has the ability to stand erect. Because you see any other animal, they are always the back is bent. Only two species have the ability with a straight spine. Primates and humans. Correcta? அவங்கள தான் ஹோமோன்னு சொல்றாங்க. In fact, our first beginning of human evolution is Homo erectus. Erectus. That with a straight spine. So this is a reference to genus. So this is the smaller level. This is the next level. Higher level, next higher level. This can change. But when this changes, automatically this brings to a new level, right? புரியுதா உங்களுக்கு? So what she said is ulta. They belong to the same species but different genus, you said that. Yeah. Which means they're different species. That's what my question is. Are they same species or different species was my question. Right? They are different species altogether. They are not same. They are called as African cheetah. The one that got vanished from Indian forest was called as Asiatic cheetah. Asiatic cheetah. You know what one thing about cheetah? Fastest animal in the world, fastest mammal in the world. You can say that as usually when we have the advertisements for bike or cars, we usually put the cheetah symbol, right? Which car has the cheetah as its logo? Jaguar. Something more like. They belong to the same genus but different species. So they are fastest. But they are different species. So literally know one thing. What we are bringing to India is not what lived in India. What lived in India was Asiatic. What we are bringing is African cheetah. You know what two countries had accepted to give that? Two countries were involved in this partnership with India for the largest in the world's intercontinental relocation of animals. Namibia and South Africa. Namibia and the South Africa were the two partner countries. In fact, Asiatic cheetah right now lives in another country. Yes? Iran. Exactly. Iran. Iran, that is a small Asiatic cheetah population living there. But நமக்கு அவங்களுக்கும் வாய்க்கா தகராறு. So we had Vaika Tagararu, Pangali Sunday, and Navana Solala. We are not very cordial with them. Of course, when that relation is not better, they put some unfamiliar demands also. You know what? One of the demand they put, okay, you want something which you don't have, I'll give you. You give me something back which I don't have. Okay, lion. Lion is present as of now only in India, right? India outrightly denied. Lion. Gujarat government is so adamant that they should be the only state having the lion population in the country, in the whole world. When the Supreme Court intervened in 2014, don't keep all eggs in one basket. You drop the basket, all egg is gone. You have to take only to omelette. Now we are keeping all the lion in one small area. Okay. As of now, lion is present only in 3 districts. This sanctuary, 3 districts it is found. Some infection like COVID comes there, it will affect this population so greatly, so vociferously that they all will die. கடைசியில உனக்கும் இல்லை வேற யாருக்கும் கிடையாது. Supreme Court intervene. Okay, try to relocate the lion to the nearby Madhya Pradesh. Let a new population packet develops. A new packet of population develops. So that lion don't get extinct again. Gujarat says no, we won't give it. Despite the interference from many governments at many levels, they simply are not willing to part with their heritage symbol of the state, which is lion. Then how they will give it to Iran? No, nothing at all. Then India was forced to go to Africa. And from Africa, from 2 countries, Namibia and South Africa, they given it about 8 species initially. And the plan is to have at least 50 different 50 Asiatic cheetah introduced in Madhya Pradesh. But why Madhya Pradesh? Why not any other region? Now this is where the habitat comes. Why Madhya Pradesh? You know which protected area that the cheetah relocation was successfully done? Yes? Speak louder. You're right. Speak louder. You're right. Kuno Palpur National Park. See, just don't think about what others are doing. I said, Nana, first I told you, pat yourself. Don't wait for others to pat. Okay? Just say what comes to your mind. If it's correct, it's a reinforcement. If it is not correct, it's an opportunity to correct. Rather than keeping within yourself, either of the choices is good. Okay, rather than keeping within you, blurt it out. Okay, ma? So say it out. Kuno Palpu National Park. But I started this whole thing by asking you, what is the speciality about the cheetah? Fastest animal in the land, correct? Fastest animal in the land. Not in the world. Fastest animal in the land. So, இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு animal hunt செய்யணும்னா what kind of an ecosystem should be there? You have to run faster, ma. Can you run faster in the streets of in Ranganathan Street during Pongal, during Diwali? What will happen? You'll be crushed. Forget about running. You'll get crushed. You cannot do that. Cheetahs run faster. Now, what should be the environment as looks like? Yes, grassland. Yes. What's your major, ma? Okay. Okay, fine. I know more and more that you say that it's a kind of reminder to me that, oh, be careful. There is someone who says that. Yes, grasslands. You tell me which animal. An animal has to run faster means it has a visibility. It should have a less obstructions. No, that's a basic criteria, correct? Even in Namibia and South Africa, these species lives only in grasslands. If it's a dense forest, this species simply cannot hunt, because this is not that relies on waiting for the prey and hunt like a lion or tiger. They are not ambush predators. Cheetah is not an ambush predator. It's called as ambush predator. They don't ambush. They simply chase and kill. In India also, Such an ecosystem exists so cordially in Kuno Pulpur National Park. It's a dry, deciduous grassland. It's a grassland, most ideal for the cheetah to be replaced. That's the reason. It's not like randomly one place was chosen to take African cheetah into Kuno Pulpur. It's a grassland. Apo, an animal has to come from one living area to another living area. It is under a lot of stress. Lot of stress. You know already, uh, uh, 3 adult which has been relocated to India died. You know that, and 2 cubs have died already. But that's okay. That normally happens. We don't have to give a negative projection for that. Any animal naturally dies. Now, because everybody is looking at that, even a small thing, we make it into a big headlines. Normally, when we relocate, this animal die because of stress, new change in condition that happens. But the point is, an animal is shifted from one area to another area. Now, this is where we can understand better what is standing for habitat and niche. So, what an habitat is? I told you cheetah, the most preferred ecosystem, the most preferred kind of a region where it can live is what? Grasslands. Now we can say grassland is the habitat for cheetah. Now what do you pick up the meaning for the word habitat? The place where an organism lives. So habitat simply habitat simply means a place where an organism lives. It's also called as the physical address of an organism. We have physical address as our home, correct? For other organism, habitat is a physical address where it lives. If I say my physical address is so and so, it means that's where I live. So likewise, you take any example, you take an organism, immediately you say, oh, that is where it lives. For example, when I say golden langur, it's a beautiful looking monkey. It is found only in the evergreen forest of Western Ghats. It means that is their habitat. That is its address. So habitat means the physical address of an organism. Cheetah ke eppadi grassland irukko. So if you want to make an organism to live, you have to choose the same habitat. You cannot take an organism from one habitat, put it into a different habitat. Yes or no? Yes. That is called as habitat. Okay, let's take Kuno Palpur National Park. It's a grassland ecosystem, most ideal for the cheetah to be relocated. Okay. Now, in this grassland, in this Kuno Palpur National Park, there are other organisms also that lives there. It is also known for striped hyena. In the Kuno Palpur National Park, it is also home for striped hyena. It is also home for leopard, Indian leopard. Tiger and lion is not found there. It is known to for 2 other predators. The Kuno Palpur, there are 2 other predators that co-lives: striped hyena and leopard. There are also other prey population, chintal, okay, called a chintal, samba deer, nilgai. These are the wild pig. It is these prey that this animal goes and hunt. So there is a predator population, there is a prey population in the same Kuno Palpur National Park. So what this means an habitat is a place where an organism lives. It means an habitat can be shared, correct? That Kuno Palpur is shared by many living organisms, correct? So next thing what we say in habitat can be shared between different species. Leopard is a different species. Striped hyena is a different species. Chintal is a deer family. Chintal is a deer family. That is a different species. Samba deer, nilgai deer, they are all different, but they share the same place, correct? So habitat can be shared. But when you come to the next one, niche. Yes. Niche na enna, where an organism lives is habitat. What an organism does is niche. What enna பண்றாங்க, what they do there, what is the role, that is called as niche. So niche refers to the functional role, of an organism. The functional role of an organism is referred to niche. Functional role, it simply means what they do. Where they live is habitat. What they do is niche. What they do there, that's called as niche. So niche includes many things. Niche is an inclusion of many things. Predator-prey relationship. Predator-prey relationship. What the word niche includes? It includes predator-prey relationship, nutrient cycles, energy flow. Niche includes all this. Niche பத்தி பேசணும்னா நம்ம இத பத்தி எல்லாம் பேசி ஆகணும். We have to talk about these also. We have to talk about predator-prey relationship, nutrient cycles, energy flow. All this we have to discuss about. The next important thing about niche is habitat can be shared between different species. Niche cannot be. Niche cannot be shared between different species. Niche cannot be shared between different species. The reason is something simple like this. You are sitting in a chair. This classroom is the habitat. You sitting in a chair to do a particular activity, taking notes, listening to class, thinking about something. That's what you do, right? That is your niche. If someone wants to sit in your chair and do the same thing, will you allow it? You usually won't allow it. You will say, there's something empty, go there. Why are you asking me to get displaced? So the same thing, when you do something as your role, as a functional role, if someone comes and fights with you, there will be competition. No matter whatever we say as a healthy competition, there will ultimately be a winner and there will be a loser. Any competition we conduct, no matter how we qualify that, there will be a winner, there will be a loser. Even though we say as a sportsmanship, as a symbol of sportsmanship, that we accept both with equanimity, that's different. There will be a winner and loser. So here also in an ecosystem, when the functional role of one species is competed by another species, they come and fight with each other. One will be successful, they will occupy that. The loser will move away. Briefly, two species will compete. That time it looks like the chair is occupied by both. But ultimately, one is thrown away, one will be successful, correct? Literally what we can say, niche cannot be shared. Niche cannot be shared between different species. Habitat can be shared, niche cannot be shared between different species. This can be explained by a principle called as competitive exclusion principle. Why it cannot be shared? It's explained by a principle called as competitive exclusion principle. Competitive exclusion principle. Once again, pay attention. Competition, fight. Exclusion, one will be winner, one will be rejected, excluded. So competitive exclusion principle explains what? It explains that niche cannot be shared. So what is the explanation for the understanding that niche cannot be shared? Competitive exclusion principle is the explanation. Habitat can be shared, niche cannot be shared due to competitive exclusion principle. Now that is what the point is. Now let's apply this concept with the example I told you. The cheetah reintroduction project. Okay, we have shifted initially 8 of the species from Africa to the Kuno Palpur National Park of Madhya Pradesh. What happened? That is there any change in habitat? Is there any change in niche? Please tell me that. Think for a while, apply this concept, what I have told you, then response back. From Africa, we shifted. You understood what habitat is, correct? Only few heads are shaking. Okay. See, sometimes do something for the happiness of others. சும்மா தலையாட்டி வைங்களேன், என்ன ஆக போகுது சார்? புரியுது சார், சும்மா சொல்லுங்க. ஸோ புரிஞ்சுதுங்களா? Good. So habitat, where an animal lives. Niche, what an animal does. Now, in this relocation project that we did with the Asiatic, with the cheetah, from Africa we shifted the species to Kuno Palpur. Were there any change in its habitat? Were there any change in its niche? Okay, let's go one by one. Okay, let's not throw open question. I'll ask a specific question. Were there any change in its habitat? How? See, something, based on something you said, yes, there is a change in habitat. What is that something? What prompted you to say yes? Okay. See, it's something like this. Let's say that I live in a particular home. Let's say I'm shifting my home to a different address. I call that also home, but it's not same. It's not same. It's called as grassland. But the grass living in Africa is one of the predominant grasses called as buffalo grass. That is not the similar grass that we found in Kuno Palpur National Park. It's different. So grassland in Soldradhanala, it's not like the same ecosystem. Different ecosystem. When there is a different kind of ecosystem, it looks same grassland, but it's different. So is there any change in habitat? Yes. What the word prey stands, what the word niche stands for? Predator-prey relationship. You think what is found in Nilgai? Nilgai is found only in India. Sambadir is found only in India. Chintal is found only in India. It is not found in Africa. Africa, it's mostly gazelles. That's a predominant prey. So when the prey changes, the whole of what an organism does as a function also changes, correct? So in this project, we can understand there is both a change in the habitat as well as niche of a species. So there is both a change in the habitat as well as niche of cheetah. Okay, so that's what the habitat and niche stands for. Let's move to our next topic. Any doubts in this? This is the most simplest and fundamental. See, I would like to tell you guys, probably there will be many from non-science background. I understand it. I truly acknowledge it. But this subject is mostly driven by certain technical terms. Initially, it looks very hard to hear it or to relate it to your understanding. But as we move on, I assure you, I guarantee you that you will be in a position to understand the class as well as when you read newspapers. Do not say that this subject is not coming to me. It is too technical for me. I'm not a science background student. Don't determine like that. Let's say that you're running in a race. You're on the 4th position. You're running faster. But there is some distance ahead to cover the track. You have some time, some gap. There are 3 people ahead of you. When will you push yourself to try? You are running in the 4th. There are 3 people running in front of you. There is some gap left that you can experiment on, you can try out. But when will you push? Put yourself in the situation. You're running. When will you push? Only when you have a trace of a belief that you can win. At least third. If you believe that at least I can get 3, you will push yourself to run. If you know, I think they are going to get it, I cannot win, once you decide, you give up. Because once you decide yourself to lose, why have to exert energy? We conserve our energy in every activity we do. That's our natural instinct. In something which you think you're not confident in winning, you won't put your energy. You want to conserve it, you want to save it. Initially, if you decide, not only for environment or any other subject, if you decide in the beginning itself, no, you are not going to get it, I'm telling you, you won't invest your energy to understand it further. So don't determine that in the beginning itself. Let the time goes. Let's see for 6-7 classes. If the same continues, then you take a call. Or you have a problem, come and talk with a particular faculty. I'm having the problem. I don't understand it very easily. There's something happening that I don't get it. We'll talk with that. We'll try to see how to rectify that. Okay? So don't determine that it doesn't come in the first class itself. But the nature of this subject is it will be technical only. We cannot do anything about that. The subject itself is too technical. Okay? But I'm telling you, as the class goes, you'll get eased up. Because you become more familiar now and again, because we're talking, you'll be familiar. That I can guarantee you. Okay. So let's walk this process slowly with hope that you can win. Okay. Don't give up. So the next topic, what we are going to see. Next topic is, in fact, an elaboration of what we have seen earlier. The next topic, we can see what is called as speciation. The next topic we will discuss is speciation. This is also a very important topic. Speciation. You know what a species means? Species means what? Group of organisms that mate with each other and produce fertile offsprings. What we call as a Earth now, it is a home that holds the drama of life has unfolded. That from a single living organism that originated in about 3.2 billion years ago. You know, the life of the Earth is about 4.5 billion years. The Earth is rotating on its own for a very long time. Hope that it doesn't stop. It keeps spinning. And after that, almost about 1.2, 1.3 billion years, first life had emerged in about 3.2 billion years ago. But see now, down the line, 3.1 billion years have gone. Now see the life. From that single one, it has evolved and evolved and evolved, diversified and diversified and diversified. Now there are so many wide varieties of organisms. There are some which we do not even haven't witnessed so far. We go to the deep ocean, we see the bizarre organisms. The most remotest part, we couldn't even fathom and imagine what kind of organism may live there. And don't forget it, there have been many extinctions happening in Earth before we came to the Earth, before we arrived. So dinosaurs, example, we haven't seen dinosaurs alive roaming the Earth except in Jurassic Park, right? An imaginary world. So there have been so much diversity, which all started from the single organism. From that single organism, the evolution from that one apart, that is a one species, correct? That evolved into another, that become a different species. From there, many other species formed. So what happens here is different species have formed. This process is what called as speciation. So speciation simply means, it means the evolutionary process. It is evolutionary process. Please understand, it's not any process, it's evolutionary process. Tamil parinama valarchinuvanga. I would like to share with you later times. Even though we say that humans are the most successful because we are the best example of Charles Darwin's survival of the fittest. You know, that's a theory that many management lessons also teaches us. You want to survive, you make yourself fit. If you're unfit, the forces around you will make sure that you are eliminated. Panda, the beautiful, no, the body looks white, only the legs look black. That's a black patch. Looks very cute. It usually gives birth to 2 or 3 cubs at a time, cub bears. But uh, it doesn't care for the cubs initially. Only the cub which takes effort to take nutrition from the mother, it feeds only that. Because it knew already that the nutrition it provides is very limited. It cannot feed all the 3. Okay, so it chooses either 1 or 2, and the other, due to neglect, dies because it is unfit. Even in humans, we see the most dreaded genetic diseases people when they have. If some people have a serious genetic disease, let me tell you, they usually die at an early age. They don't usually cross 16, 17, 18 years. That is actually a process of natural selection. Because if they cross 18, 19, it means they are attaining reproductive age. If they attain the reproductive age, it means their genetic malfunction is carried to the next generation, which should not happen. Any malfunction that happens, any aberration that happens, it has to be removed, it has to be eliminated. Most serious genetic things that happens, any bizarre things that happens, they usually don't survive beyond reproductive age. Even if they survive, they are usually fertile. That is how nature selects. That is how nature selects. Competitive examination, something like that, survival of the fittest. But there is some other interesting book I came across. I'll share that with you later. Survival of the kindest. It's an alternative theory because survival of the fittest seems to be very brute theory. Very brute, very unkind, very unforgiving. It says that you are not good enough, you'll be just eliminated with no kindness at all. But actually says man's success or the man uniqueness is not survival of the fittest, but survival of the kindest. It's a beautiful book. As I said earlier, we'll try to talk about that in a later class. Very beautiful book. I'm so happy to share that later. I'll say that. But the point here is all this drama, all these things happened and happening right now in our earth. From that single, many organisms have diversified. And the process that we call it as evolution. And evolution gave rise to new species, that gave rise to new species, that gave rise to new species. That's what we call it as speciation. So the evolutionary process of formation of a new species. Now this is what called as speciation. Speciation means when a new species forms, that is called a speciation. Okay. Now, what could be the major reason for the speciation to happen? Initially, in geography, you would learn plate tectonic theory. Usually, the continents are so geometrically arranged, but separated by seas and oceans. You put them all together, it forms a single landmass. It forms a single landmass called as Pangea. It was the name to the oldest landmass, Pangea. But due to tectonic movement, they all drifted away, forming new continents. But you take back, it's like a perfect jigsaw puzzle. You put them all together, it forms a single landmass. As if you break with a hammer, you separate them. That's how continents are separated. Plate tectonic theory, you'll study about that. In geography, you'll study more about that. So, initially, elephant was seen to be a single species. But later, a small population drifted away from the Africa, moved into Asia, and after some time, it changed into a different species. It evolved into a different species. We call it as Asiatic elephant. Remember, African elephant is different species. Asiatic elephant is a different species. Now imagine, the population of small population of elephant moving to the new landmass and got separated. If that did not happen, you think Asian elephant would have came? No. And isolation important. A small number has to get separated from that. Now this will breed within itself, go to a new direction, evolutionary direction. That group is under a different conditions. They will go in a different direction. You come back and see after 1,000 years, 10,000 years, this would have been different, that would have been different. புரியுதா உங்களுக்கு? You understand speciation? So speciation process நடக்கிறதுக்கு what are the important factors? Factors involved in speciation. அதை தான் நம்ம பேச போறோம். We're going to talk about the factors involved in speciation. Remember the example I told you, okay? That Asiatic elephant, African elephant, I told you, right? Remember that example, relate with what I'm saying. You'll understand it. First thing, the most important thing for the speciation to happen is reproductive isolation. Reproductive isolation. As I told you, this group moved here, that group stayed there. Now they don't mate with each other. This is far away separated. So this group of organisms mate with each other, that mate with each other. Over a period of time, they go different directions. Reproductive isolation is a fundamental reason for the speciation to happen. Next. Now, once the reproductive isolation happens, okay, now I'll write it first, then I'll explain. The next factor is gene flow. The next factor is gene flow. Now, let me qualify that. Let me explain a little about the gene flow here. What is gene flow? Very simple. The flow of the genes from one generation to the next. For example, you take me. I am a representative of the gene that flown from my mom and dad. That is a gene flow from my father and mother. It flown to me. And for them, it's their ancestors, for their ancestors. So, from one generation to the next, the gene is carried to the next and next. That's called a gene flow. Gene flowing like a river. அப்படியே நம்ம ancestor மூலமா அப்படியே வந்ததுக்கு இல்லையா? No, that's called a gene flow. Now remember, as long as the gene is flowing, new characters rarely will emerge. Remember, because here, let's imagine there is a group of members. Group of that species. If they mate with each other, gene is flowing within them, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You think it forms diversity or uniformity? Uniformity. This is what we even say with the lion population, Asiatic lion population in Gujarat. Because it is as of now found only in 3 districts. And they mate with each other a lot. Because this lion population mate with each other a lot, experts, ecological experts believe that it's called as inbreeding. The word is called as inbreeding. Because of this extensive levels of inbreeding na enna? In that small lion population, they don't go anywhere. They are not allowed to go anywhere. So the gene is flowing only within themselves. You understand what I'm saying? Gene flow. The gene is flowing only within themselves. This is what we call it as inbreeding. In our culture and tradition, humans, it has been barred to marry our own kith and kin. The reason is because that is related to inbreeding. The same gene, when they flows, that results in higher incidences of diseases. Because whatever the genetic defect, if it is bred again and again, it multiplies. The possibility of getting the genetic malformation increases due to inbreeding. Experts say, you don't relocate lion to a different area, allow them to venture out and make different population until they say that the lions are becoming more and more vulnerable to diseases. they are more vulnerable to genetic diseases. They become more vulnerable to infectious diseases. In fact, 2 years back, there was one serious infection that affected them. Like how COVID affected us, it killed about 15 lions. 15 is maybe it's for us, it's a small number. But for the small, about 430, 40 lions, which is living there, 15 is a huge number. An infection called as canine distemper virus affected them and killed them in large numbers. Canine distemper virus, CD Vinchulwang. Canine distemper virus affected the lion population. Why? I told earlier, we are keeping all the egg in one basket. You drop the bag, eggs are lost. The reason why? They are breeding within themselves. The gene is flowing only within themselves. Now, if you understand that, now explain. Tell me the answer. When a population is undergoing genetic flow within themselves, a new species will form or not? Think. If there is a lot of gene flow happening with themselves, you think diversity will come? Diversity in vandadanappa vera different organism irukka mudiyum. Only when the diversity comes, it becomes different. Only when it becomes different, it's a new species. This is a different species, right? See, we are different. Orangutan is different. Diversity irka. So diversity should be the basis of a new species, correct? But when there is inbreeding happens, that is uniformity. That is homogeneity. There is no diversity. You get what I'm saying? So gene flow, what it does, it decreases the rate of speciation, right? It decreases the rate of speciation, gene flow. What is gene flow? I told you, gene flow is the movement of genes across generations. Inbreeding, yes, it's called as inbreeding. Inbreeding is culturally prohibited in humans because it makes us more unfit. It makes us more unfit. Gene flow. What's the third factor? Third factor is called as genetic drift. The third factor is genetic drift. These are the three factors that plays a role in speciation. First one, isolation. Correct? It has to be isolated. Second, if it is isolated, there is a higher gene flow or lesser gene flow. இங்க ஒரு பாப்புலேஷன் இருக்காங்க, இப்போ செப்பரேட் ஆயிட்டு போயிட்டாங்க. The gene flow between them is high or low now? Low. That's why this evolved into different species. So gene flow decreases the rate of speciation. Okay. Now the third one is genetic drift. Fast and Furious 2, Tokyo drift. What the word drift means there? Drift na ennappa? Faster na you can say accelerate, but drift na enna? Yes, sudden change in அதெல்லாம் வேணாம். Driftனா என்ன? Sudden change in? That is also acceleration or deceleration. When something is from here to move, it's acceleration. Sudden change in direction. No, they go there, they put the front brake and accelerate and turn the wheel. It turns its direction, correct? We expect it go in this way, but it suddenly changes the direction. That's called as drift. The same understanding, genetic drift. So genetic drift, அப்படினா என்னன்னா, this is a more complicated concept, guys, because to explain it to non-science அப்படின்னும்போது, this may become an overdoing exercise. I'm kind of little dilemma now. I'm caught in the dilemma whether to explain this a little further or not. If you guys say okay, I can go ahead. There are only few okays. Let's run like a democracy, right? You guys are okay for little? Okay. Genetic drift அப்படினு புரிஞ்சுக்கிறதுக்கு, probably this will help you in reading current affairs. Okay, that will give you better understanding. Okay, direct relevance I won't say, but it will help you in your better understanding. That I can guarantee you. So to understand the genetic drift, we need to first understand what are called as alleles. What are called as alleles? Alleles na enna? Okay. As I said earlier, this is little complicated. How to bring it more simpler? Okay. Sorry. We all have different skin colors, correct? We are all humans. First of all, we accept we are all humans, right? I accept. You guys? நம்மள சாப்பாடு போட மாட்டாங்க. You accept or not? Okay. So yes, we are humans, which means we all have a skin color, correct? But what is the basic reason for the skin color to appear? Melanin. Some people have a different melanin concentration. Some people have a other different. That's a difference in the skin color. Now that is due to a gene that is responsible for the melanin production called as melanin gene. Let's stick that melanin gene. You all have a melanin gene, correct? Adanalada you have a different skin color. But do you have the same melanin gene as your neighbor? You're all humans, right? You all have a melanin gene, right? But it is not the same melanin gene. It's like this. For example, let's say melanin gene is like this from here to here. One person may have a change here in the part of the gene. Some other person may have a change in other part of the gene. So gene, all you have is melanin, it's correct. But it is not the same version as the other. Your version of a melanin is different. My version of a melanin is different. In the மாதிரி, there are 40,000 genes in humans. ஒவ்வொரு ஜீனும், remember in population how many versions it will exist? Let's say melanin. How many versions possibly we can say? Say for example, we have 50 or 40, let's say. 50 different versions of melanin exist. Now imagine the whole world. Gene is same, but its versions are different, correct? Now இதைதான் allele சொல்றாங்க. What are alleles அப்படின்னா? The different forms of a same gene. The different forms of a same gene is called as allele. Gene is same. அவர் தான் மாப்பிள்ள, but version is different. அவர் போட்டுக்கிற சட்டை அது கிடையாது. It's the same gene but with the different forms. For example, when you take me as an example, I got my chromosomes in my cells, you know. My chromosomes is 43, we say, you know, human chromosome 43, Ilya. If there is any change in 43, they are not humans. Believe that. What? 43 or 46? எது சொன்னாலும் accept பண்ணிக்கிறீங்க. Please listen. 46. I was keep saying 43, 43. I thought somebody will pick it up. 43 illappa, 43 in the, it's not human. 46. 46. This 46 actually, you know, 23 was given to me by my mother and 23 was given by my father. It totally becomes 46. It means this melanin gene actually, you know, came one melanin version from my mother, one melanin version came from my father. இந்த மாதிரி 40,000 genes-க்கும் two different version என்கிட்ட இருக்கு. அதனாலதான் I'm neither having the same melanin feature of my dad or my mom. I look kind of a different. It's not the same, exact same கிடையாது. இதுல நான் என்ன சொல்ல வரேன்னா, அப்போ one person, one individual can have how many alleles at a time? Two alleles, one from the father counterpart, the other from the mother counterpart. So far புரியுதா உங்களுக்கு? What are alleles? Different forms of the same gene. Each organism can have how many alleles for one gene? Two alleles, two different versions இருக்கும். For example, you take melanin, I have one melanin version I got from my mother and the other melanin version I got from my father. Two alleles at a time an individual will have. இந்த மாதிரி 40,000 genes humans இருக்கு தெரியுமா? There are 40,000 genes. These 40,000 genes I have two versions. Imagine you have the same, you have the same, two alleles you have for each gene. அப்போ you take this melanin gene, take for example, for the sake of convenience, let's say Okay, adavana. Let's take ant. Let's not take humans. Let's take ant. The same is there in ant also. Nam eppadi melanin solromo, the same is applicable for the ant also, right? They have their own alleles in their population. Namla consider panda mari, they have their own alleles. Let's take their feelers length. It will be so different because of the allele differences. Each ant will have two alleles. There are a lot of ants, lot of allele variations. Let's say it's a huge ant colony. An animal goes and stomps on the colony. Let's say it's millions of ants. Okay, let's say it stomps on it and runs away. Obviously, hundreds of ants would have died. With the death of the ant, the alleles are also lost. Correct? The alleles existing in the population is lost. This is one scenario. Let's imagine you have how many millions of alleles of the same gene? 2. Let's imagine there are the frequency. Let's say we are 50 in number. As of now, let's say 50 in number. Let's say the allele number is 30, which means there are 30 different alleles now with us. Example, among the 50, there are 30 different. Like the same example, let's take the ant population. Let's say there are 100 different alleles there. In a million ant population, some animal stomped on it. Some 100 ants had died. Would you expect any change in the allele frequency? Think carefully. There are only about 100 alleles in a million ant population. Even if 100 dies, the rest of the population is so living, the allele frequency won't change. Now imagine another scenario. This ant is now moving to a new location to start a new colony. Let's say there are only 100 ants moving to a new location. Let's imagine. Now the same thing happens. Stomps on it. Let's say 60 ants have died. How many are remaining? Only 40. Now, initially it was 60. The total population was only 100. 60 are lost, which means 120 allele possibility are lost. You understand what I'm saying? 120 possible. Only there are remaining 40. In a million population, if 100 dies, there is not a big change happening because others living are compensating. But in a small population, if something happens, if somebody dies, there will be change in the allele frequency, correct? What is drift? In the allele frequency, if it suddenly changes, it's called a genetic drift. So genetic drift means a sudden change in the allele frequency of a population. You understand what allele frequency, correct? Like that example. A sudden change in the allele frequency of a population is called as genetic drift. Who are the aboriginal tribes living in Andaman and Nicobar Islands? Jarawas, Sentinelese. You heard about them, right? Do they live in large numbers or small numbers? Small numbers. We are living in large numbers. Even if COVID affected us, killed us in lakhs, lot of genetic alleles would have been lost. But there are many remaining who can survive the genes. Not a big problem. But if we go and make contact with the so old tribals, so ancient tribals, see, these are the tribals who may not have even cholera within their population. They would not have known the disease like what we have, like a common cold. Even common cold may be so serious to them because they are so separated from the world. They are living there in their own world. You know why government is restricting your contact with this ancient tribals, you know? Because you are exposed to many germs, but you developed immunity. You have no problem. But those guys are not exposed. You go there, you have immunity, you are perfectly fine. But these guys will be killed the moment you make the contact. Once you make the contact, if they die, let's say there are only 100 tribal Jarawas. When the disease affects, and let's say 30 are lost, it means we are losing 60 alleles from the population instantly. 100 la, if 60 is lost, it is a sudden change in the frequency. But in a million, if 60 is lost, it's not a big change. So genetic drift simply means a sudden change in the allele frequency. It is due to the genetic drift phenomenon that contact with the Sentinelese and Jaravas is restricted. It's called as no entry zone. It's a no entry zone. But some 6 years back, an US missionary tries to make contact with the Sentinelese, and he was actually sufficiently warned. But still he ventured, trying to take the message of the God. And tribal says, we are good with the God, but don't worry, I'm sending you a meeting with your God. They sent him back to his own God. I'm not making fun of any religion, but that's what happened. They shot him with arrows. His body was unclaimed for 6 days. Because even the government is not willing to go there, and if government want, they can do it in a moment, but they don't want to disturb them. Because genetic drift will happen to them. So genetic drift எப்போ நடக்கும்னா, whether it happens in a large population or a small population. So whenever there is a small population, remember, lion may undergo genetic drift if something happens. A sudden change in frequency, allele frequency can happen only when the population is smaller. When suddenly changes, the whole characteristics of the population will change, correct? The sudden change. So genetic drift, if it happens, it furthers the speciation. So gene flow reduces the rate of decreases the rate of the speciation. Genetic drift increases. It increases the rate of speciation. Now, based on how speciation happens, there are 4 types of speciation. Based on how the speciation happens, there are 3 factors I told you: reproductive isolation, gene flow, genetic drift. Now, what are the 4 types of speciation? First one is called as allopathic speciation. The first one is called as allopathic speciation. So what this allopathic speciation means? It is also called as geographic isolation. It is also called as geographic isolation. Allopathic speciation is also called as geographic isolation. What I told you in the case of African and the Asian elephants, they got separated, and over the course of time, they evolved differently. This became a different species. Asian elephant became a different species. African elephant became a different species. How that was made possible? They got separated geographically. So when the 2 species are geographically separated, they live in one place, this population lives in another place, then what will happen? Gene flow will stop. You understand? Gene flow will stop. Second, reproductive isolation happens. Third, drift may happen. When all this happens together, speciation now happens. So first one is called as geographic isolation. Naturally, this can happen due to geographical barriers, such as ஒரு species வாழ்ந்துட்டு இருப்பாங்க, suddenly a fault appears, and with the fault a river will flow, dividing the whole region into 2. Animals cannot cross from this bank to that bank. It means they are separated. So the geographical isolation எப்படி நடக்கும்னா, it is due to the formation of geographical barriers. It is due to the formation of geographical barriers, such as valley formations, fault lines, valley formation, fault lines, and island formations. Suddenly, if an island forms, that got separated with the rest of the mainland. Now they evolve separately there. Whatever there in the mainland, they live separately there. Now isolation happens, correct? Geographically, whatever isolates them is called as allopathic speciation. The second one is called as peripatric. I already told you this seems very sound like a technical words, but don't worry. It's very easy to understand. First one is geographic isolation. See, nalla புரிஞ்சுக்கங்க. The basic aspect, what is the most fundamental thing to happen for speciation to occur? What I told you, fundamentally what needs to happen? Reproductive isolation. Isolation irunda, if isolation happens, if the two population is isolated, then speciation may very favorably proceed. That isolation, any form is good. Here it is happening geographically. Okay. What about peripatric speciation? Let's imagine there is a huge population of a species. Huge population, so dense in numbers. Whenever there is a huge population in an area, there will be competition among them for food, shelter, and all the other factors. So what will happen? Normally when this happens, some group of the species will try to migrate to a new location, correct? They will try to migrate to a new location, some which is adjacent to them, and they will try to start a new kind of new kind of a life there. They will try to move from here to there. Now imagine when in a large population due to competition, a small number of species moves there. Which is a large population, which is a small population? This is a small population. So when a population becomes small, if they போகும்பொழுது, they may be hunted, they may kill, they may die due to diseases. Some natural forces may even kill them. They may even die out of lack of food. Yeah, something may happen. So which means genetic drift will most likely happen here. Correct? Gene flow is also stopped. They are also isolated. This is a ripe condition for the speciation to occur. That is called as peripatric speciation. It is not like some barrier came. Small population moved out of it. Now that is called as peripatric speciation. So what happens in a peripatric speciation means a small population moves. A small population moves to the nearby habitat. You put the picture near the peripatric, you will understand it easier when you revise it later. A small population moves to the nearby habitat. When speciation happens because of this, it is called as peripatric speciation. Now, this moving into the nearest location by a small population, correct? The small population may undergo one effect. They will be experiencing one effect called as bottleneck effect. They will experience one effect. The small population we are talking, right? They're moving from here to there. They will experience one effect called as bottleneck effect. What is this bottleneck effect? It doesn't matter how big a bottle is. When you pour the content of the bottle, what determines the rate of flow? How wider the neck is. Isn't it? How wider the neck is, that determine how quicker the flow happens. ரொம்ப பெரிய நெக்கா இருந்ததுன்னா the flow will happen quicker. If it's a small neck, it means the flow will be slower. Likewise, whenever the population becomes smaller, that affects the destiny of the population also. So smaller population usually will undergo bottleneck effect. The bottleneck effect is determined by the size of the population. The bottleneck effect is determined by what? Size. How big it is. So you tell me, bottleneck effect usually happens with a small population or a large population? Small population. It happens only with the small population, bottleneck effect. That is called as peripatric speciation. Peripatric speciation, when a small population moves out, gene flow is reduced, the genetic drift is increased, isolation happened, that form into a new species. This process is called as peripatric. Now the third one is called as parapatric speciation. The third one is parapatric speciation. Parapatric speciation, peripatric, parapatric. Now, the point is isolation should happen, guys. For a speciation to happen, let me tell you, isolation should happen in one form or the other. How that isolation happens is what it matters. Geographically, if it happens, it's allopatric. If a population moves out, that is also isolation. That is peripatric. Now, what this parapatric means, let's say an organism is living in a huge area that covers a huge area. So when an organism covers a huge area, one thing now becomes evident. The group of organisms in the extreme corners rarely come into contact with each other. Right? The groups found in extreme corners, they rarely come into contact with each other and therefore are reproductively isolated. இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு ஸ்பீசியேஷன் நடந்ததுன்னா then that is called as parapatric speciation. So parapatric speciation என்னன்னா, it occurs in a large geographical area where the extreme zones on both sides, the extreme side on both sides lacks contact. அவங்களுக்குள்ள கான்டாக்ட் இருக்காது, which means isolation happens again. In peripatric, the migration happens, correct? A small population migrates. Here there is no migration. In parapatric, there is no migration. They live there where they are living. The point is they simply cannot cover such a huge ground. Most animals, they have what is called as a range. Over animal, there is a range. Thank God we have vehicles. Now our range is so huge. People are coming even from Vellore every day. But imagine there are no vehicles. How our range will be? Maximum 3-4 kilometers. We go around 3-4 kilometers, forage and come back, right? That's called as range. Due to transportation, our range has expanded so much. But other animals, they don't have that much of a range. They will have a range only within here. This have a range within here, and therefore they are separate. Now that is called as parapatric. A good example for a parapatric species is grass growing in coal mines. Grass growing in coal mines is a good example of parapatric speciation. Fourth, now the last one is sympatric speciation. The fourth one is sympatric speciation. So in sympatric speciation, what happens? Now what happens in sympatric is very simple. Nobody knows. It just happens. Somehow we have to reconcile something which is hidden that isolates them. We know as of now that isolation illama speciation cannot happen. We know that very sure. But how that isolation happens, we haven't yet fathomed. So in sympatric speciation, there is a random speciation within the population. எப்படி ஐசோலேஷன் நடக்குதுன்னே தெரியல. That is a random speciation within the population. How they are isolated, we don't have a damn idea about it. So sympatric speciation means a random speciation process within the population. Random-ஆ நடக்கிறது. But one thing we knew that this does not happen in every species. It happens with the selected organisms. This is most often known to occur in plants. plants are also so diverse and so variety, right? அவங்களுக்கு என்ன மாதிரியான speciation நடந்திருக்கலாம்னா sympatric may be the best choice. And insects, plants and insects are known to undergo sympatric speciation the better. Other animals, there's a less likelihood for that. So this is called as the 4 types of speciation: allopatric, peripatric, parapatric, sympatric. Okay, this may even come in the form of match the following, identify the correctly matched pairs. And the question varalam from this topic. Let's see the last topic. We have about 10 minutes or so. I don't know whether this topic what I'm going to start may be completed or not, but we'll try to cover it as much as possible. Our next topic of our discussion is ecological succession. Ecological succession. Succession simply means what that you inherit, what you get, what you inherit from your past. What you get from your past is what called as succession. So Hindu Succession Act in சொல்றாங்கன்னா it talks about the inheritance of properties. That's what that act deals about. Every religion and every culture has their own succession norms. That's why recently there is also a fire raging on Uniform Civil Code. Uniform Civil Code, they want to bring an uniformed way of how the marriages, how the inheritance, how the adoption, and other traditional aspects like divorce are handled within our community. They want to make everything same colored. One best way is to paint all with the same color. Now that is not a good idea. Uniform Civil Code is an attempt like that. When a country is very well known for its diversity, uniformity is anathema. Even if you want to force the unity, that is not going to bring or known to address the differences that exist within the community. Okay, so that apart, I don't want to venture that. Uniform Civil Code, UCC. But succession simply means what we inherit, what we inherit from the past, what is given next. This kind of inheritance happened in ecology also. One leading to another, that leading to another, that leading to another. This kind of happening again and again and again is what called as ecological successions. So ecological succession, let's imagine a scenario when the earth does not have any living organisms. Let's say earth was barren, no life. Then first life has formed. Now this is like, it's a whole world to conquer. For that single organism, it's a whole world to conquer. Slowly it grows and developed, it colonized new regions. That's how it should have happened, right? It moved and moved, occupied new regions. But how that colonization, occupation happened, it's a new region where no life was found there. Then this life gone there, colonized. The very act of colonization, what happened? It gave rise to certain changes. And because of the changes, new set of organisms were invited. Let's give you a best example. Let's say there is a volcanic eruption. The hot molten lava is flowing out. The lava and magma, if it is within the crust, it's magma. It comes out, it's called as lava. They are not the same. Magma and lava is totally different in the way that we use the terminology. Magma, when it comes out, it's lava. So when the lava flows, obviously it will be very hot, and over the period it cools down. But nothing will grow over the lava for a few years initially. But slowly what happened? A kind of a new organism, kind of green kind of a growth will grow on that. No plant will grow even because it will be harder like a rock. Slowly this green growth will happen. This growth will in fact support the growth of small plants. That in turn change the character, turn into more plants, more and plants. And as the more plants has grown, the rocks crumbles and the soil formation happens, pedogenesis happens. Now there's a lava flow that happened. You come back after 500, 600 years, that would have changed into kind of a different ecosystem together. So from something it changed into something, correct? This is what we call it as ecological succession. One leading to another, that leading to another, that leading to another. This is what called as ecological succession. So what is ecological succession means? A gradual, that point is important, gradual. Because a lava, it's not like in a blink of an instant change into forest. It happens slowly. So it's a gradual change of an ecosystem in terms of biodiversity. Because initially when the lava is flowing, it was zero life. And slowly organisms comes and invade. That gives opportunity for others to come. That gives opportunity for others to come. Slowly that happens and happens and happens. So biodiversity slowly increase correct? Slowly it changes. It doesn't remain the same. It constantly changes. So biodiversity. And you think only biodiversity changes? The nature of the rock changes into soil. Its pH, its chemical conditions, its physical condition, that also changes, correct? Rock cannot hold water, but soil can hold water. So physical condition, chemical condition, all the changes also, right? So the gradual change, enna change nadakkudu. Biodiversity it happens, as well as and physical and climatic, physical and chemical characteristics. Physical and chemical characteristics of it. Now this is what called as ecological succession. The gradual change that happens from no life to a region brimming with life. Now, ecological succession, when it happens, usually when there is a barren ecosystem where no life was found, it's called as virgin ecosystem. No life was found, a barren ecosystem. Now, there is something which goes and first colonizes it, right? Now, that is called as primary community, primary succession. Primary succession. Succession means, I told you how the gradual change happened. That's called a succession. What is primary succession? Like the earth, old earth, that everything is new to occupy, correct? The whole earth is just empty. Now no life was there. Somebody is going there and occupy, correct? Now that is called as primary succession. So primary succession means the community that invades a barren ecosystem. A barren ecosystem is called as primary succession. The next is called as secondary succession. What does the secondary succession means? Now this is slightly tricky. Let's imagine there is a forest growing on the foot of a volcanic mountain. Now imagine suddenly the volcano got furious and started sending out the plumes of smoke and the lava. Obviously what happens? Any life that is in the vicinity will die. It means it now looks like a barren ecosystem. It looks like a barren ecosystem because no life. And slowly what happens? The life returns back. Even though the volcanic flow happens, you come back after some years, some 6-7 years, you come back, then once again the life returns back. Here what's the difference is, it is not a barren ecosystem in the beginning. There were a forest first. There were other life present there. But the volcanic eruption killed them. Now the life is introduced again. This is called a secondary succession. So secondary succession na enna, the invasion of an ecosystem, by organisms, which was made barren due to forces. Which was made barren, it was not naturally barren, right? Know the difference. Which was made barren by certain forces. Example, volcanic eruption. See, Earth originally was barren. Nobody made it. That is primary succession. But these kind of sudden events that happens, forest fire that happens, let's imagine, it is made barren now. That is called a secondary succession. அப்போ பார்க்கறதுக்கு என்னன்னா, let's say initially when you see that mountain, it looks green, but volcanic eruption happens, you come and see everything becomes black and lifeless. Now this is made barren. This is not naturally barren. You come after a few years, once again life starts to grow there. That is secondary succession. So இப்போதைக்கு earthல நடக்கிறது secondary succession or primary succession? Because every space is almost occupied by life. அது எல்லாமே primary முடிஞ்சிடுச்சு. What happens now is changes in secondary succession. Some secondary succession happens. We kill the forest, we deforestation, we do. It is also form of secondary succession. புரியுதா உங்களுக்கு? Understand what I'm saying? So that is called a secondary succession. So secondary succession. Now in this context, we'll come across what is called as primary community. Primary community. What does this primary community means? In a very simple way, we can say first invaders, like how different voyagers in our ancient times moved across country to claim their land and territory for their king, right? Everybody did that. European powers in the medieval time did that a lot. They wanted more land to tax, more people to slave, more people to trade. They were looking for new land. They were going there and try to occupy and claim their ownership, their land. Columbus did that. He was a Spaniard. So likewise, if there is a new ecosystem, new barren ecosystem comes, somebody has to go first there and change it, correct? So that kind of a first invaders like Nicholas Columbus, like that, the one which goes first is called as primary community. Primary community na enna, the organism that invades a barren ecosystem. Yes. No, don't do that. I said don't do telepathy. The organism that first invades the barren ecosystem is called as primary community. Primary community in sollitona, only two are mentioned as primary community. It includes mosses. Mosses na, it's a type of a plant. See, like we say animal, we are the advanced animal form. But amoeba is also animal, correct? Amoeba is also animal, but it's a simple animal. We are the advanced animal. Likewise, plant also, there are multiple levels of sophistication. Algae pathina, just a simple plant. Bryophytes is the next level. Algae would a next advance yarana bryophytes. But it's also a plant. This has no leaves, no roots, no flowers. That's called as bryophytes. Okay. So, and the bryophyte example, the mosses. Mosses is a bryophyte. It's a simple plant. We can say it's a simple plant. Mosses is a simple plant. And the lichens. Mosses and lichens. You are in a primary community. It includes mosses and lichens. Lichens actually is not a name of an organism, guys. It's a name of an association. It's a name of a partnership. Lichens, it is not a name of an organism. It's a kind of a unique condition of a partnership between algae and fungi or algae and bacteria. Lichens, I just want to know from you guys. Algae. Lichens is an association between algae and fungi. Yes, it's like, we cannot reach our back, right? It's something like this. Okay, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. It's like that as a kind of, okay, I in the association, like, I'll give you some rent, you pay me back something like that. So like both are benefiting. Okay, now that's called as, okay, we'll discuss that in the classes later. Lichens is that beneficial interaction. Now the first invader is actually called as primary community, and the primary community is formed by mosses and lichens. Now what happens is, one changes into that, one changes into next, one changes into next. Slowly the change happening. Theoretically, they say there comes a point, succession the succession is happening again and again and again. There comes a point where it reaches the maturity stage where no more change is possible. Now that state, that no change is possible, அந்த இடத்துல என்ன ஆர்கானிசம் இருக்காங்களோ, the organism present there at that time is called as climax community. The climax community. Climax community என்னன்னா, the organisms present in the end phase of succession. The organisms present the end phase. Succession ஓட கடைசிக்கு போயிருக்காங்களாம். இதுக்கப்புறம் no change is there. The end phase of a succession is called as climax community. Let me add one point here. National Forest Policy 1988. National Forest Policy 1988. This is an important piece of guideline that tells us how much forest that we should have. Any idea how much of a forest that we should have? Yes, 33 or 1/3 of the geographical area. Let me add another point. Now I started that actually National Forest Policy 1988, what it mandates now, it mandates that we should have at least 1/3 or 33% of our geographical area under forest. 33% forest, we all will be like tribals. Not only forest cover, remember, that's where the nuance comes. UPSC idhula dhaan vilayaduvanga. It's not only forest cover, and 33% of our geographical area under forest and tree cover. They are not asking us to live inside the forest. They say live among the trees. Forest and tree cover, not only forest cover. So don't wrongly assume 33% of the forest land irundhuna, that is not possible. We will not have industries, we will not have roads. The so-called infrastructure we have, it is not possible if everything is forest. So forest and tree cover. Sometimes we have to appreciate the way that certain policies are made, the words that they use, the phrase that they use to accommodate even the future interests. That's so wondering. Our constitution is one like that. They make the possibility of interpretation so wider and so open that even fresh meaning come out of this kind of older provisions. And the Madrida in the 1988 forest policy, they say it's not forest cover as we commonly think, it's both forest and the tree cover. Another aspect is in 2019, a draft new forest policy was released by the MOEF. And in that, they changed one important wording used in that 1988 policy. In 1988 policy, another important goal of the forest policy was to provide ecological stability.